about some kind of elementary stuff. So the title of the talk is, I hope it's the same, unramified correspondence. And its origin. So the whole talk is about curves. So modes with one-dimensional. So what is a curve? So when I say curve, usually I have so curve is in my in this talk is smooth, projective, curve over, let's say, algebraically closed ground field, where I mean mostly three fields: C, complex numbers, Q bar, the closure with a nature embedded, the closure of rational numbers, algebraic closure of rational numbers, or F Q bar, which is the closure, algebraic closure of FP, final field. Okay. So I want to define two things. So first, if C is a curve, then we define a domination. That means C is greater than C prime, and as a curve over the same field if there exists a non-ramified covering C tilde over C, which subjects on the C. Right. Okay. Okay, so this, the idea of looking at such correspondence, so this is unramified correspondence. So it is unramified in that direction and whatever in this direction. So certainly, maybe I will remind here about E. E will be elliptic curve. Elliptic curve gives a curve G of E is 1. And what I will be interested in torsion points of elliptic curves. So elliptic curves, I recall that elliptic curves constitute nature of one-dimensional family. And if curve, E over C, or FP bar, let's say for P, which is greater than 3, then there is a natural representation of elliptic curve, first over P1. So I usually will be looking at this. This is degree 2 math, standard degree 2 math, which is that's something kind of this representation. So, however, there is additional thing that I'm just reminding that elliptic curve over C is just a product of S1, so therefore, and so it is has a structure of a group. If you fix 0, it gets a structure of a group, and the equivalent to this one, and then there is a subgroup P torsion here, which is just product Q by Z by Z. So there are torsion points there, and this subgroup is fixed. Now, what we will be looking in this case is, so we take under this map, we get into P1, yes, and therefore for every elliptic curve. So usually we have such a map. It is ramified over 4 points. So we say okay, so for every elliptic curve is basically defined, let's say complex, as a complex elliptic curve is well defined by four tuple points. 4 tuple points. One of them, EJ. modulo the action of Pj. So if we move these 4 points by Pj2 on P1, then we obtain the same elliptic curve from a complex point of view. It's slightly crude way to look at things. However, this is sufficient, and moreover, we have the image. So if you have this optimorphism, which is unique, which is basically sigma is a quotient x, but x minus x. So therefore, if you fix x in ABCD, so those are ramification points of sigma. And so usually these ramification points constitute the fix A. Here then this is simply a subgroup. It's a group of torsion points of order 2. That's a very useful kind of presentation. And therefore, in particular, the image, so we can say the image of torsion, P torsion, inside P1 is also well defined subset modulo Pj. So in this way, we associate to every elliptic curve an infinite subset inside P1, everywhere dense, because you see the points are dense here, so they're dense on this side. So we have a dense subset of the images of torsion points, which is defined modulo Pj. When we are moving ABCD by Pj2, we are moving simultaneously. And so here the question, so these two kind of things I will try to, they will converge slowly. So this is defined, so we are looking conjecture. So let me say what I'm looking for, what is conjecture? So conjecture, which is, I don't know if I believe it or not, but there are things in that direction. So conjecture here is that C6, which is curve of genus 2 given by equation y6 equals x squared minus 1, dominates C6 dominates any curve. So maybe I shall say 1, and then I say conjecture 1 prime. Any curve C prime over Q bar. So not every curve, but any curve over Q bar dominates C6. So it simultaneously holds maximum and minimum. In particular, it would tell that for any curve over Q bar, you have for any pair of curves over Q bar, you can take non-unified cover and do subjects in one direction or in the other direction. So essentially, that if you look over Q bar, so it says over Q bar, there is only one. There is essentially there is one. Modular dominance. So that if there is a universal, the example, how to say, what I mean here is the example is that if you look at the elliptic curves over C, they will obtain as quotients of C by some different translations. Now here the claim is that there is an algebraic object, and inside this algebraic object you have a proof, and any curve is a quotient. So it's not complex, but algebraic. Okay, is it clear? Okay, so therefore essentially, when we look at the Galois action, for example, on the abelian fundamental group, it's very different for the completion of fundamental abelian fundamental group. It's very different for different groups. But if you are looking at the action of the Galois group on the total total provided quotient for any curve genus greater than 1, yes. Certainly. And so for these groups, the groups themselves are almost free. Yes, the group of a curve has only one relation, but the action of Galois group is more or less the same up to subgroups of line. Okay, there is a relation. So in fact, what is the relation? The relation is that essentially we can build these coverings using the elliptic curves. The only way to build such a non-trivial relation here is to use elliptic curves. So let me do it first. So I'll clean it up, yeah, because the general picture is clear. We are looking for that and simultaneously on that. The idea of going in that direction came from the so-called Belly theorem. So maybe I'll recall Belly theorem. Is the following. If C over C is defined over Q1, then there exists Mn. So it's a function, a harmonic function. Okay. C to P1 with a property that f, let's say, of the f equals 0. So these are ramifications. Contains in 0 1. So it means ramifications are in 2 points. You know, if you would ask for in sequence, if you would ask for 2 points, then it is immediately restricted only P1 as such. But as soon as we say, let's say, we allow 3 points, so 3 points here, so the image of ramification, then we immediately get in first. On the one hand, we are getting only curves over QR because this is a covering from ramified at algebraic points. As usual, if you have a covering from ramified only at algebraic points, it's defined. It can be, the field of definition can be reduced to QR. But on the other hand, the opposite is very non-trivial. It's kind of the most deep in some way relation between geometry and arithmetic is that exactly this arithmetic condition being defined over Q bar implies that C has such a and then automatically, yes, and then we can get something in that direction. Namely, if you can say immediately from that, we can say that for any curve C prime over Q bar, there exists M. A number, an integer n, such that Cn dominates C prime, where Cn is just a similar to, so this notation. So Cn is equal to y, so it's the same as y to the power n is equal to. So that means we can't say that there is one curve. So I can't say that, I can't prove instantly that the 6 is there, but we can actually say that one of these very particular curves, know that they're all five curves, one of these hyperelliptic curves, one of this family, parameterized by integer number of elliptic curves, dominates everything. So first, Belli's theorem, I won't supply you a problem. It's not very difficult, just take a few steps. It's an interesting theorem with many different side applications, but construction is absolutely correct. And the only reason for construction is that you can say that integer numbers are simultaneously numbers, they are like rational numbers, Q bar, but also you can view them as ramification indices degrees. So they appear. That's the peculiarity of the Q bar. And construction is basically direct. So you take C prime. So you select C prime and it will over Q bar. There are all the three ramifications. And you can notice that this curve is also ramified over 3 points. But the ramification indices here are big. So this nature map of degree n, yes. So it's ramified with ramification n and well, and sometimes n by 2 and by 3 and therefore if you take a product over Q1, so that n is divisible by ramification indices of C prime. So it uses so-called local Fabian property. And if you have a ramification at some point which is divisible by n prime, so it's like locally, if you look, ramification point is just a disk. This here the map is z to the n. Here the map is z to the n. So if n is divisible n, so then the product here is ramified. You take, so it's a local question about it. Locally, any curve is like a disk. So locally, you have a map of a disk. If n is divisible by n, then when we consider what is called prior product, then it means that here we have to take root of m roots of it. But we already have n roots of it. So u is a parameter here. We have to take m roots of parameter, but having n roots means that it's already split. So the pre-image splits, the product splits into a number of disks in that direction. So therefore we use this local lemma, and then by that we obtain that if n here is just big enough and is divisible by all ramification indices of this map, we have a non-ramified covering which suggests. So construction is very big. So therefore, in particular, what we need is to build maps between different CM. And here maybe in order just to skip time that we made some construction with Eurochinka. Plus recently we kind of added with Hanga. So now we can say, so in that direction what we are looking at, we want to show, so the question is if it dominates. So if C6 dominates Cn for all n, then we would get an answer. However, we can't prove that, but we can prove that it is true. It is true for n equal to s by 3t by m s and by b. So for all numbers of this type, we can prove. However, the construction is becoming very more and more. So the problem, so in general, the problem is how to build a value map with bounded indices, bounded ramification indices. And in the Belli's construction, original construction, it's clear that the indices are growing. You can do it. So his direct construction is not growing. Okay, so so we have, however, so recently Jinkian mostly he was doing it. So he proved that there are non-trivial relations between different Cn. And so, for example, that C6, 11, 43 dominates C7. And C6, 13D dominates C7 power. So there are some partial relations for higher, so in between these very particular curves, but at the moment there is no. The only general approach is based on the torsion of elliptic curves. So what means? So how do we? So for example, I can say that this conjecture holds. That this So this part holds for F. So F bar, and it holds because in finite, when we look at a finite field, then in fact, okay, so I'll clean this one. So looking at the finite field, we essentially obtain that when I'm saying P torsion, which is equal to, so in case of finite field, P torsion E of F P bar is the same as E torsion. All points are torsion. And therefore, we can do the following trick. We can get a map. So we start with any map on P1. Yes, and then we take, okay, so and then we basically can say that all ramification points, all branch points, images, df of f of df equals 0 are torsion points of one particular curve is 0. So this is torsion points P torsion of P0, and then we can and then that means essentially that if we have C6 mapped to P0, which is a very particular curve. Has an autonomous with no degrees. And so with two, with ramified over ramified, so this map ramified over 2 points. And then we can take a cover, induced cover, C6. Then we take induced, so then we take 0. This is just multiplication by n, so that this torsion points include in the torsion of order n. And then we take cover which is ramified. So induced covering, it will be 2 ramified. So then the map to P1 will be 2 ramified over all these points, and like over P1. This will be the, so this will be non-ramified. So what I was doing here, I was looking at, so I used the fact that the curve, so if the curve, initial curve C prime, if C was ramified over torsion points, over the image of torsion point of P1, then they can make such construction. So a very particular elliptic. So in general, what I want to say is that if so this construction works perfectly well over any field, over Q bar. If you're looking at, so if we have a curve C, which maps to P1 is F of the amplitude belonging to P1 T0 torsion. So inside the distortion, then we can do the same construction and we obtain that C6 terminates as a corollary. So, but certainly over C, however, over Q bar, not every point is the image of a torsion. It's a very big set, but it's a small. It's a very big set. It's dense in every possible sense, but it's still not the whole thing. And the first question is, so what can we do then? And that, so we have to discuss what are the sets for different terms. And the first statement is, and this is, so strengthen that, so this set, P torsion intersection, P prime torsion, is always fine. So the sets never, as soon as you look at another curve, the set of points is basically completely different. And hence we started to look at this, and so there are two things which happens here. And first is that this, so first the proof is from Reynolds theorem. It's from Reynolds. Essentially, it says that if you have C inside E cross E prime, like a curve G of C greater than 1, then C contains at most finite. This is just a code. Okay. So now we have this finiteness, but this sets, so we would like actually to see the relation between these different sets. And again, so if you have one elliptic curve and you have P1 torsion, so if you have something, so if you have inside P1 torsion, we have ABCD. Then we can say that curve E ABCD is dominated by. So if we look at the elliptic curve which is ramified over torsion points of another elliptic curve, we can kind of apply the same thing in that. So whatever we have, so if you have something which is, if you have C prime ramified over torsion points of that one, then it will still be dominated, and here you have P0, then it will still be dominated by C. So this construction can work by steps. And therefore we are interested, so the curves split in some classes, which are big. Yes, for elliptic curve we can define the same. And here is the interesting point that we can kind of extend this relation. That means consider SE in P1 a subset, which is obtained from, let's say, E, A, B, C, D, from E torsion, E1 torsion, by the following operation. Okay, take, so S is closed, S is, so it contains P1 torsion. First, it contains P1 torsion. And then you close it after the following operation. Take any for any four tuple inside here. For tuple A prime, B prime, C prime. For any four tuple, we add to SE the set E torsion, P1 E torsion of this curve A prime, B prime. So it's like we're getting all algebraic. So we have some generators of the group, and then we add things, for example, take multiplication. Here we do different things. We add just the torsion points. And as it happens, okay, so what happens is that at the end we obtain a group. So what we obtain in the end is kind of operation. Take 4 points and add all the torsion points, all the corresponding projection torsion. We all this on P1, and then the theorem. The result is a final. That's the feature. P1. K is something. K is a proper subfield. Proper subfield of what? But it is in general. But it's in general. So if you obtain some field, which is usually can be rather strange. So it's an infinite extension. So this is K is Galois extension. It's a Galois extension. Galois extension. K contains the roots of and it splits, so the field actually may be so it depends only on initial curve, and there are plenty of curves for which these fields are the same. However, certainly it's embedded. So K of E is contained in, let's say, Q solvable plus all SL2 and extension. So if you consider maximum Galois extension of Q, which is obtained by taking essentially a cyclic extension plus SL2N. SL2. We can take SL2 extension. So if we take also intermediate extensions, but what we obtain, so okay, we know that this field is contained there. We don't know yet whether it is a cyclic. And so if we take, let's say, which is ramified over 4 points with invariant outside of this field, we obtain a different field, and so on. So there is an infinite tower, and we don't know of relation between fields, which splits everything. And in fact, the minimum field is defined exactly by E0. Okay, so in fact, we can say that K E0 is equal to K. So this is curve with automorphism of degree C. And this is curve with automorphism of degree 4. And many other things. So in fact, it is equal for anything K, A, B, C, in the middle. So there are plenty of curves which have the same field, but this is kind of minimal field. It is contained inside K of E or O. But in general, these fields are different, and what I am saying, so the relation is that presumably that where this is where the intersections are. So in relation with this problem, we certainly would like, let's say, to see whether for two different elliptic curves, that we can make a big intersection of the torsion points. So if you can, so if you take the torsion and so the question is what can it be? So how big? How big? Can be intersection unless they concise. And so there is a conjecture here that this number is bound, universally bound. And by now it is clear that we can get 22 points. This is, we proved it with my student who actually computed big polynomials. It's not clear, we can't get exact equations of the curve. It's solution, but we have polynomials which solutions provide with pairs of such curves. It's big intersection. On the other hand, what happens is that if you have two curves with different field, then the intersection is essentially bounded by 10. So this how to say, basically this kind of field, whether the field is the same or different, tells you how big it can be intersection. So it's clearly bounded by a small number like 10 when the fields are different, and what happens inside when the curves have the same, this strange field, we don't know. But there we can achieve at least something. So in particular, this provides with many classes of curves which are, for example, smaller than, which are dominant by C6, but we still don't know what. It's all very elementary, but the torsion points of elliptic curves and their images are the first instance of sort of natural jumping set for some modular problem. Those torsion points are particular points on elliptic curve and their images. Like usually if you have some modular problem, then exceptional sets are all of this nature. See, infinite union of divisors. But here we at least have some control. Okay, so here this one is conjecture which everybody can try. Just maybe some some sufficient computational skills will help to at least move this. So this conjecture for dominance conjecture to higher primes, and at least we see what happens. And here I don't know, there are some. Maybe it can push through the study of this torsion of this field and how the behavior of torsion is there, but it's still the very beginning. I don't know. Okay, so maybe that. I can say maybe you have questions.
No questions? Okay, can we think again?